Hello, everybody. I'd like to welcome on Ian Epstein on this fine Memorial Day. Just a little bit of context. Ian is the son of the person that helps us with the studio, so we're kind of forced to have him on the show. It's a little, you scratch my back, I scratch yours,
It's part of the contract.
A little bit something like that. We never signed anything with the studio, so we just feel like it's a good thing to do, and I'd like to welcome on, like I said, welcome on Ian, and happy to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
No problem.
So Ian is the co-founder of a Las Vegas-based sports betting service called PropSwap. He is actually stands to gain a lot, I think, by this new law that's been being passed around. So, I mean, let's just start it off. Let's start off with your story. How did you get involved in sports betting?
Sure.
What was the first time where you really realized this is what I want to do?
Probably the first time I went to Las Vegas and I stepped into a sports book and I saw all the TVs and like the numbers flashing. And I remember I walked up to, I was still in college at the time, and I walked up to one of the ticket writers and I was like, just out of curiosity, like the guys who run these books, like, what they majored in college? Like what's something that, I could focus on? And the woman was like, I don't think these guys even went to college. I was like, okay, so the barrier seems pretty low. Like if I want to do this, like I put my mind to it, I can do it. There's no like, diploma I need to get to do this. So that was the first time where I was like, I love this stuff.
So what does that process look like? It clicks. This is something that you want to do. How do you actually go about starting this service?
Right. So, I think this speaks to anyone who, if you like identify an industry you want to get involved in, it's just like get your foot in the door. So I knew no one in Vegas. I had no connections to the industry. I just did my research. And so like, obviously the casinos like MGM and Caesars, they have sports books in there, but like the sports books are such a small percentage of everything they do, right? They're hotels, they're restaurants, they're everything. So I identified this company called Cantor Gaming, which all they did was sports books. So they would come into the Venetian or the Cosmopolitan, and they rented the space to just do sports betting. So I was like, okay, here's a company that all they do is sports betting. That's what they eat, sleep, breathe. So if I can somehow get my foot in that company, like that's just what we'd be doing all the time. So I got an interview for a part-time marketing job, and within 6 months I was a risk manager where I was sitting in a room taking bets, moving lines, watching sports for a living. And I was like, this is exactly what I want to do.
That sounds great.
So you were actually determining the lines on the games?
Yeah, well, so misconception. No one really sets lines. Like one person somewhere sets lines and then everyone else just copies them. So, but once the line is set, then you start taking bets, right? And your job as a risk manager is to basically put yourself in favorable positions, right? Where you stand to gain, you stand to gain money. Yeah, but also another misconception is, so people think bookies or bookmakers, the objective is to get equal dollars on both sides, right? If you get $110 on team A and $110 on team B, and one team wins, one team loses, you pay out $100 to the team that wins, and you collect $110 to the team that loses. You make $10. But that's a misconception as far as like getting equal dollars. So like a lot of times what happens is that you basically, if team A wins, so NFL for example, 12 games, right? Yep. And every game, if team A won, we would win $300,000. If team B won, we would lose $250,000. And eventually, what happened is we just won 50% of the games. Like Vegas is not that good at picking games. Mm-hmm. Like everyone's always like, how does Vegas know? Like, how does Vegas know? But in reality,
how do you guys know?
Everyone just remembers the times where the spreads are close, but no one remembers where. Vegas had the Philadelphia 76ers as a huge favorite against the Celtics, mm-hmm. and they had Toronto Raptors as a huge favorite against the Cleveland Cavaliers. They were dead wrong on that.
Really,
but no one thinks about that though. Everyone just remembers the times where they were like right on. So big misconception is that Vegas actually has no idea what they're talking about, or like, mm-hmm. It's way more random than you think.
The question: so when does the books decide that they're going to shift a line based on the volume that's going on one side or the other?
Right. So it's not necessarily the amount of money that gets bet; it's who's betting it, right? Mm-hmm. So for example, we took bets from Floyd Mayweather, mm-hmm. and he's a loser when it comes to sports betting. So
many people view him as a loser.
You want him betting.
His Instagram may not tell that story, but yeah, he's an overall loser in sports betting. So when he bets $1 million on something, obviously you want to balance some of that. You don't want to just be like, you don't want to sweat a game for $1 million, but you know that over the long run, he's a loser. So you want to be on the other side of a guy like him. But if a guy like Billy Walters, who's like the most prolific professional sports bettor, although he just got in jail for insider trading.
That'll get you.
Yeah. He's part of the whole Phil Mickelson thing.
Well, that was a gamble that didn't pay off.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah.
What's the biggest bet you guys have taken out of curiosity? Like you said, Floyd with $1 million.
Yeah, biggest bet I ever saw was 1.5. I saw on like an NFL game.
Did they win or lose?
I think that lost. I think that bet lost.
Sucks.
Yeah.
I'd probably jump off a bridge if that happened to me.
I mean, if you're betting 1.5 million, you probably have something to spare. Like, it's not a guy who's worth 2 million betting 1.5. It's not been
True.
75% of his net worth.
That's also a good point.
So what does your company specialize in?
Right. So I was at that company for 3 years, and then I left there to start my own company called PropSwap. And what PropSwap does is we are a secondary market for sports bets. So when I was working at the industry and I was looking around, and so when you make a sports bet, it's, it collects, a certain amount if it wins, but it's worth zero if it loses. It's like all or nothing, right? And if you bet on, the Vegas Golden Knights to win the Stanley Cup right now, and your ticket collects $10,000, if they win it, it's worth that. If they could fall one game short, it's worth $0. But there's a whole range of values in between 0 and 10,000 that it's worth at any given time. But you can't. There was nowhere where you could like act on that, right? So I was like, why not like a marketplace where you can list your bet for sale while it's still active, and someone would buy that from you, right? If you bet $100 at 100 to 1 on Golden Knights to win 10,000, someone would buy that for you for $5,000 right now, right? And so you just turned 100 into 5,000 guaranteed on something that could lose, and the guy who bought it from you will gladly bet 5,000 to win another 5,000 on a team that's favored to win the Stanley Cup right now.
Have you guys ever offered somebody, like I think we were reading an article earlier about the Falcons guy from last year?
Yeah. So that's
what happened.
I like
there?
that.
Yeah.
What happened there? Yeah, Alex is a diehard Pats fan too.
Okay, yeah. So
preface this.
You must
Patriots.
have felt real good at halftime.
Yeah. So it was pretty depressing at the time, but this story has actually turned into like the greatest example of why you should use PropSwap. So this was 2 years ago, Super Bowl Sunday. We were in the Caesars Palace Sportsbook just talking to guys, and we overhear this guy talking about how he's got all these Falcons futures. He stood to collect $200,000 if the Falcons won the Super Bowl. He bet like 7 different times like over the course of the year for like he bet 10,000 to win 200,000, and he was saying how he's gonna buy his parents a house, if the Falcons win, all this stuff, and we're like, look, like here's what we do, right? We just overheard him. We're like, here's our company, here's what we do, and so we got on the phone and we talked to our big buyers. So PropSwap does not buy any tickets ourselves. We just connect buyers and sellers, and so we had a buyer say we'll pay $85,000 for all those tickets, right? So then we walked up to the guy with a check in our hand. We said, here's a check for $75,000. Right, because we were going to make some money.
Yeah,
make some money. We put it in his hand. Here's a check for $75,000 for all these Falcons tickets, and he ripped it up. He said, "No way." He said, "Falcons are winning this game." And I was like,
shit.
"Would you sell one of them?" Because he bet 7 different tickets, right? So I was like, "Would you even sell one of those?" Right? Like you could sell one of those to recoup your initial investment, right? And then you're free rolling it. He wouldn't sell it. He wouldn't hedge a penny. And so,
well, I'm sure he was very down after that one.
I can't even imagine what was going through his
He was
head.
standing on tables at halftime. But I think he was crawled up in a ball at the end of the game.
Have you guys heard from him since?
No, we obviously, we reached out to him after the game, like a little jab,
a
little jab. I mean, like,
So he was pretty rude about it because obviously he tore up the check. He was like, oh, I'm going to tear this up and show you up, kind of, right?
Yeah, I mean, he was just like, but see, people have this irrational confidence with their sports bets, right? Like when someone's doing well, that's usually when you should sell, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you buy a stock and it's going up, you should sell high, right? That's the whole thing. But people with sports betting, it's different, right? Everyone's looking for that payday. It's like a lottery ticket to them, and so he was already spending that money, right? He had already spent that $200,000 in his head. So getting a penny less than that would have been insufficient.
Yeah, it kind of like we went to Vegas a couple years ago to put future bets on, and we put like 10 to 1 that Wisconsin was going to win the national championship. It was like me and my buddies, and obviously game of the day comes during the national championship. We're all looking at each other like, well, should we bet on Duke and win half the money or whatever? I don't know if PropSwap was really up at that point.
No, yeah.
And none of us hedged our bets, and obviously.
Right, and I'm sure there was like a pride issue. I mean, like.
Yeah, I thought they were going to win.
Yeah, I mean, well, also you're a fan of me.
Too.
I mean,
you really let us down, big boy.
yeah, you cost them some money. But yeah, I mean, like when you have an emotional attachment to the team, I mean that makes sense. But I mean, the goal of gambling is to make money, right? At the end of the day, the goal is to make a profit. So it's I try and preach to people every day, like, look, just you're taking profit, move on to the next one, go make the next bet.
Are you guys, out of curiosity, just the first to do this? Are you guys the best at it? Because to me, when I was thinking about the concept of the company, obviously it's very smart, but I feel like just with gambling, somebody had to have thought about doing this before. Are you guys the original?
We
basically the
we
founders
were
of
not
this?
the first people to think of the idea, but we were the first people to execute on it.
Really?
And I mean, when we first started this thing, we were like, all right, well, we got to find out if this is legal, right? And so we went to the Game Control Board of Nevada, and they basically told us, no way in hell, this is never going to happen, right? And here's the reasons why. And we got their letter, and we were like, well, no, actually, we disagree with these, blah, blah, blah. And they're like, no, that's not how it works. Like, we tell you no, and it's no. Like, that's it. And this woman, and like we kept trying.
No means no.
I'll see you in court.
Yeah, this woman was like, what don't you get about no? It's not going to happen. She's like, the only way this could possibly happen is if you find a gaming attorney who's got a really good relationship with the board. That's the only way. And so we're like, all right, like Dumb and Dumber, like, so you're saying there's a chance? And so we had to go find a lawyer, and I kid you not, 12 different lawyers were like, I wouldn't even take your money. I wouldn't to take your case. Like, it's a dead end. Like, would not even happen. And then the 13th lawyer we talked to was like, oh yeah, like totally. Like, if you make a bet in Vegas, right, Alex? If you make a bet,
Yeah.
and then you want him to cash it, like it's totally transferable, right?
Yeah.
So
It's property. It's my
exactly.
property.
So that's the argument. It was like there's no identifier on these tickets, right? All that matters is
Your
who's,
name is not on
It's
the
a
actual
wagered
ticket.
bet.
It's
Yeah.
just a
Yeah.
ticket with a bet and a
The
price
odds.
and a payout.
Yeah, exactly. So that was our argument, is that this is property, right? The wager happened at the casino. After that, that's your property. You can do whatever you want with it. So the cool thing to us is that we have buyers outside Nevada because you're right. And so right now, so if you can go on PropSwap.com, we're in 9 different states. You can log on and buy a ticket. You're not making a sports bet. You are buying someone else's property. So it's kind of
It's like a gray area, if you will.
it's a little bit of a gray area
Yeah.
for sure.
We live in gray areas, so it's perfect.
Love it.
Yeah.
So a couple weeks ago, obviously the ruling came down from the court saying that it's going to be gambling's legalized. Obviously, it's up to the states. How do you? And we were putting our ideas out there how it's going to change the industry. What do you think is going to happen?
Yeah. So
And for your business as well.
yeah, so it was great news for our business because as I'm sure you're aware, everyone bets on sports in this entire country, right?
Yes.
But only 3% of it is done legally in Nevada, right? So every week people hit us up like, hey, I've got this bet on Bovada. Can I sell it? I'm like, no, dude, you can't. How am I supposed to transfer ownership of that? It's made on your online account or like with your bookie. Like, I can't do that. So we only deal with legal sports bets as what you can sell. So our pool of what we can sell just went from one state to possibly the entire country in the next couple of years.
Holy shit.
Yeah, and so it was fantastic news for us. So as soon as New Jersey will be the first state to go live, and so
Chris Christie, baby.
Chris Christie.
If FUPA did something, baby. Love it.
He's not president, but he helped us all out in a good way.
When he was right president, I was like, I will vote for him because I'm a one issue guy and he's pro sports betting. Like I would vote for Chris Christie if he was on the ballot. But yeah, I mean, it's gonna be a slow rollout. I think people saw the ruling and they're like, cool, I can bet on sports, in my casino, next month. But that's not the case.
Yeah.
And so basically, and I know you guys cover this in one of the other podcasts, but yeah, I mean, think of each state as its own country. Like each state is going to have their own different rules and regulations, and it's actually gonna be kind of a clusterfuck if you're asking me, like because. New Jersey's gonna go first, but then like Mississippi is gonna be like second. They've got their own rules, and and then like the other thing is too is that each state is like ran by different corporations basically, right? Like, and it's all about lobbying,
Different
right?
ideologies and everything,
Yeah,
too.
I mean, and this is all being pushed through, through like their state senate, and also lobbyists kind of control what's in these bills. So like in some casinos, it's the racetracks, and some states it's the racetracks, some it's casinos. Connecticut's ran by 2 major Native American casinos, right?
Mohegan
so like
Sun's one of them.
Mohegan Sun,
Yeah,
and
I played
Foxwood.
there.
So it's like what's in their best interest. So each state's gonna be different, and so the companies who are trying to get in the bet taking space, like they want to take the bets, it's gonna be a very crowded space. That every state's going to be different with the taxes, with the licensing. And the beauty of our business is that we don't have to get licensed because we're not gambling. So basically everyone else goes to the work of making bets, and then we're going to be on the sideline saying, okay, now you make that bet, now you can sell it. So yeah, so it's going to be really good for us. And then as far as just the rollout of what it looks like, I mean, I know like everyone's got the idea. I mean, I think event, it's going to start out small. Like you're going to have to go in person to make the bet at first, and then it'll be on your phones, and then it'll be on the computer, and then eventually it'll be in the stadiums. Like I think eventually, just like a Wembley Stadium, in England, you'll be able to make a wager, at these stadiums. Eventually.
To me, I think that's where you get the biggest economic impact from just like somebody who goes to a Hornets game. You have your little tablet now in your seat where you can take bets, like a prop bet. Will Frank go 2 from 2 from the line? Will
Right.
he go over 2? Will he go over 15
Right.
points
I mean,
or whatever?
when there's a blowout, like in any sport, and the people who are still watching,
That's when it
because
gets exciting.
That's because they've got prop
Oh, yeah.
bets. They've got they've got money on the total. Like the leagues, they want people to keep watching, if it's a blowout. So gambling is the only reason. Why does anyone watch Thursday Night Football? when it's the
I
Titans,
barely
outside,
watched it.
Titans Jaguars.
outside of Color Rush, probably just
And
just
Color Rush
be
is
better
gone
than that.
now.
It's dead.
I know, well, kind of.
So
Rest in
nothing,
peace.
basically.
Yeah, so now it's unwatchable outside of gambling.
Yeah, but I mean, I was actually curious to ask you, Frank, because I mean, I don't know if you guys have been following how the NBA is trying to get like a royalty on these.
I think, what is it, like a 1% royalty?
1% royalty on every wager taken on NBA. Not every sport, but just like on their sport. They want, and so the other thing people don't realize is how small margin sports betting is, right? Everyone sees these numbers as like how much is wagered, but no one realizes that only 5% of that is captured. So in Nevada, for example, $5 billion is wagered on sports, but the sports books only hold 5% of that money. And so that's actually $250 million is what the revenue is statewide, and that's before their costs, right? So with the NBA saying they want 1% of all wagers, that's actually 20% of revenue. So it's a lot of money. And so we'll see if
God, we're just greedy bastards, aren't
So
we?
Frank should tell Adam Silver to quit being a dick. That's what I'm saying.
well, so I mean, I'm curious. So I mean, like you're the product, right? Do you think the NBA like deserves? So if everyone's gonna be making money like on this on sports betting, do you think the NBA's like deserves to basically get a cut if they're they're putting on the product?
I do. And here's my reasoning. There's so much attention that can be involved around, but you see it like Twitter. It's such easy access to everything. Now, if gambling is legal in place to place, and you see a prop bet that you want, let's say on Twitter or social media, and you can just go click on it and bet, it's so much faster than you physically going to a sports book. So there's going to be inevitably more and more gambling that's done on each individual, whether it's site or app that's created as a product of this. And there's just going to be more and more money. So I'm assuming they want to capitalize, get in now, so that when the business explodes, potentially by this law, that they have their foot in the door already, rather than letting it explode and then trying to negotiate.
They want
to be in there at the beginning, is what I believe it to be.
But so in my opinion, though, like obviously these stand to gain. Like there's other ways to stand to gain from all this, other than taking a cut of the bets, right? Like that there's going to be increased viewership, and I feel like there's other ways though they can monetize this thing without getting involved in the gambling side. So for example, I forget, it was one of the NBA games recently, but there was a lot of foul calls. I think it was the Warriors Rockets
You can
game.
bet on that, can't you?
On the fouls.
You can. There's just be a new subset of betting that'll probably.
I mean,
begin to happen.
there's certain bets that should not ever be taken. Like there's certain bets that like can be easily swayed. I can get in a second, but so the NBA stands to make more money if there's a Game 7 Warriors Rockets, right?
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
So these stand to gain if they're somehow involved. It's also they would stand to gain money if there's bets taken on a Game 7, right? If there's more games being played and there's more bets being taken, these stand to gain more money, right? So do you really want people to be like, oh, all these foul calls are being made because they stand to make more money on these bets? I mean, it's such a drop in the bucket for NBA. I mean, like
it really is.
I mean,
I can agree with that. The money now has gone up and up and up since even I've been in the league. It's significantly larger now. I mean, people are signing. I think Anthony Davis is able to sign like a $230 million contract next summer. That's, you would have never heard of. I mean, I remember when $100 million contracts were absurd, and now it's over $200 million.
Now they hand
so the
$100
money's
million
going
out
up.
to Joe Schmo.
And a lot of that has to do with the Chinese market growing exponentially, basketball viewership. But like I said, I'm sure the NBA wants to get in on the ground level just to have their foot in the door in case of an explosion. I mean, that's personally my opinion, and I'm assuming if it is such a big market, or potentially can be, they'll want to at least continue to grow the game. I mean, gambling is another way to grow the sport of basketball.
Totally. But yeah, I mean, I just think there's ways to like sell the data rights, like sell the video feeds. There's like other ways to make money. And like I said, if they're taking 20% of the revenue, then it's not going to be cost effective for the sports books. The whole point of this law getting overturned is get rid of the illegal betting, right? You want all this betting to come up from the offshores and the bookies. And if it's not profitable for these casinos to basically make money off this thing, because NBA is taking 20%, the states are taxing it, then if the casinos if it's not profitable to them, they're going to stop offering it. Then it all goes right back to underground.
Yeah, where we were before.
Yeah. So what? Out of curiosity, what is, or have you guys seen in the past couple of years, been your guys' best sport? What do you guys do the best at? Or is it like the Super Bowl, individual events, or season long?
So I mean, yeah. So futures right now are our best bets, like the season long, like championship bets. And I would say definitely March Madness is probably our best thing because we
just opened up Pandora's box.
I have a lot of opinions on that.
on gambling on March Madness.
It's just March Madness and in the NCAA in general.
Just because like with the volatility of like like a Loyola can get to the Final Four and
no.
Yeah.
Well, it's more
and
about
the money.
compensation.
The money that's involved.
Okay, yeah, gotcha. Yeah, everyone's making money on this thing except for the people who are actually on the court. No, I totally agree. But yeah, so for PropSwap, like we do well when long shots become favorites, right? When there's like volatility in the market. So like the Warriors, for example, that's bad business for us because the Stars the favorite, they're going to end the favorite. There's no change, right?
Mm-hmm.
We like to see when a team like Loyola, who's 1,000 to 1, like literally a guy bet $10 on Loyola, and then he sold it for $1,000 before the game lost to Michigan. So like stuff like that.
Oh, wow.
So like in March Madness.
Smart bet by that guy.
No, it was. Or the
Yeah.
Golden Knights for you guys. They're 501 at the start of the
Exactly.
season.
We will never have a better example than Golden Knights right now because the Vegas will never make a professional team 500 to 1
Leicester City, baby.
ever again. Yeah, I mean,
I'm still on the Leicester City train. People don't forget, and I
Yeah.
haven't forgotten about them.
Yeah. But the other crazy thing about the Vegas though is like this is not just any expansion team. This is a Las Vegas expansion team.
Yeah.
So there are so many just locals who just bet like $50 just like a souvenir. I heard a story about a guy. He made a bet that collects 10,000. He framed it. Right. He made the bet back in October. He put it up in a frame. Like that was cool. He's now unscrewing that frame. like ready to cash in. So I mean, it's been a huge like confluence of all these things that like it's gonna cost. So they say if Vegas Golden Knights win the Stanley Cup, it's gonna cost sportsbooks $7 million. Which I know probably doesn't seem like a lot, but for futures bets for hockey, that's a lot of money. And like I said, sportsbooks don't make that much money. It's really like it's just to get people in the door in the casinos.
Well, your payouts are always inevitably probably going to be higher than, like if you're going off at 10 to 1
futures
odds,
bets.
futures bets,
Yeah.
you're paying out more money than you're bringing in. So if that bet hits, you're losing significantly more money than what you were
But only
bringing
one
in.
team wins.
Exactly right, Alex. So so that's why sportsbooks always do really well at futures because everyone bets on 30 teams and only one's actually getting
Yeah.
paid. So it's for them to lose $7 million on a futures
That's
bet.
huge.
That's huge for them.
So what's it been like? Because I'm a pretty big hockey fan here. All the rest of these guys are pretty big basketball guys. To me, this Vegas Golden Knights story is one of the crazier stories I've ever seen in sports. What is it like actually living in Vegas, getting to witness this?
I mean,
it's got to be nuts.
It's got to be nuts. It's nuts. I mean, I moved there 6 years ago, and so I mean, when I moved there, I was like, "There's no way in hell we're gonna have a professional sports team. Like to have a professional sports team was a pipe dream, and now to have this, it's like, I mean, it's bringing the city together. It's just like Vegas doesn't have a whole lot of like cool things to do on a Tuesday night, like besides like the club or whatever. So like, I mean, it's just a great thing to go do. Like you just feel like we're a legitimate city now. Like it really legitimized us as a city. I feel like.
Yeah, if it's a city of tourists and not many locals, or at least there are locals, but there's not much community there. Like kind of adding sports teams creates the identity for them. And obviously the Raiders are planning on going there. Hopefully they get enough capital to build a stadium, but
that'll get. I mean, that's another whole.
Well, after
crazy
you've
thing.
seen what's
your dad
happening.
disagrees. Your dad doesn't think it's going to happen. So
What's
he thinks that who's the owner? Mark Davis. He doesn't think that he's going to have enough capital to actually build the stadium.
Okay, well, the city of Las Vegas is putting in $750 million. That's actually all being paid for by tourists. So they increase the hotel room tax, and basically, so all the locals aren't paying for that. That's all tourists. And then like they got a loan from Bank of America for another $750 million. So it'll.
So your dad's wrong.
My dad's wrong.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's good.
Yeah,
I said he
call
was
him
wrong too, but
Yeah.
he was like, no.
I mean, I drive by that hole they're digging in the ground every day. Like that.
So it's on its way.
That stadium's coming up. Yeah.
Well, I mean, you've seen how successful one sports team has been, and that's hockey. That's probably the least popular. I would say of the professional sports.
I mean, it's cool. The Vegas team.
You guys always say it's. I mean, you have the. MLB.
I don't watch it, but
Exactly. So, with how successful they've been, you would think an NFL team there's a no-brainer.
Yeah, I mean, but so here, I mean, so the Vegas team, like they were born in Vegas. Like I feel like that's kind of like the city's team. But when the Raiders come, that's like California's team. Like basically, like they're just like relocating from Oakland. There's a ton of Raiders fans in Los Angeles. And the other thing that people forget is there's 8 games a year. They only play 8 home games a year. So like it's not going to be like that stadium is, I think, is going to be filled with basically Raiders fans from California and the visiting team. I mean, like if you're a fan of the if the Bears are playing and
that's always a great. Everyone's always finding a reason to go to Vegas.
yeah, like you needed one before, but
like you go Friday night, you party and gamble Friday and Saturday, and then you go to the football game on Sunday, and then you leave.
yeah.
The Vegas Knights asked their fans, "Do you not sell your tickets to opposing teams' fans because you obviously wanted to have a home court advantage?" So
Yeah,
or
that's-
home ice advantage, I suppose.
There you go.
Yeah. That was kind of frustrating. I'm a season ticket holder,
Yeah.
and I was like, "It's my tickets. I'll do whatever the hell I want with my tickets." So they restricted the sale on StubHub of those tickets.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
That's
Yeah.
bullshit.
I'm not happy about it. Yeah.
How do we become better gamblers? Out of curiosity, so I do like the daily fantasy shit on FanDuel and
Yeah.
DraftKings a lot.
It's
but
annoying. He's actually pulled over on the highway to make sure that his FanDuel and DraftKings.
I'm not gonna give up my money
bets.
because I didn't get my.
He's like,
bets
"What are you
in."
doing?" He's like, "I got 3 minutes left."
Why are you entering a league? Like, don't you enter a league and then put your lineup in?
Yeah, but I put a holder in. like hours before, and then we make the changes as it gets closer.
Wait,
Ian, I've done this for years.
Okay.
No, generally baseball and basketball were our biggest
Yeah,
ones.
and like you want to see who's starting, right? Because on the
yeah.
daily sports, yeah.
Like if
I
Frank
gotcha.
pulls his quad, then I got to get him out of my lineup late notice because he won't text me about it. He's never done that once to
I
help
can't
me
do
out.
it. It's technically
Have you ever been
illegal.
like those like top like value performers on FanDuel? You know?
Frank had a
I
stretch about a year ago where he was starting and he was going for like 18 and 10 a night, but down at like a minimum salary.
Nice.
One of the better FanDuel plays we've ever had.
There you
Yeah.
go.
Hey.
Makes money off that.
Yeah. Oh yeah, a lot of it.
Good.
There's
I
my
didn't
moment
give
in
him
glory.
But like for your average gambler who's just gonna go and I don't know, maybe bet a couple times a year, do you have any advice for the listeners of the podcast?
I mean, I have good advice, but like if you're going to Vegas, like you're going there to blow money, like basically, like if you're going there just to like make some bets, but like here's what I would say: stay off the parlays. Okay, you're gonna lose the parlays. Okay, if you like three or five teams, bet them individually, and then your goal is to go 3 for 5. If you go 3 for 5, you're making money, right? Or you go 4 for 5, you're making money. But the parlays are super hard to hit, and everyone's like, oh, I like that. I'll throw that on.
But they're fun.
They are fun.
It's like horse racing, yeah.
You are right.
Trifecta.
Yeah. But I mean, everyone who's ever made a parlay has lost their last game, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So-
So one short every time.
Yeah. My first advice would be stay off the parlays. And my second piece of advice would be, I mean, just in general, people bet more money the bigger the event, right? Like you think like it's a Super Bowl, so I got to bet a lot of money. It's just an NFL game, right? Like I mean, like there's no reason why you have to bet more money in the Super Bowl just because of the Super Bowl than on a Week 7 game. I mean, chances are like you're not betting enough where it's like your limits are so high that like they're not taking that on a regular NFL game. Yeah. So people like they put this like added emphasis just because of how big the game is when really it's just any other game, and like you're probably forcing yourself to bet more than you should just because you think it's a big event.
Interesting. Are there any futures you guys like personally for maybe the MLB season? I know it's just kicking off here, kind of, but I mean, NBA, NHL are almost winding down.
Sure.
NFL's getting close too.
Yeah, it is. It's around the corner.
Yeah. Let me see.
Not to give away your guys' business model.
No. So I want people to go bet long shots, right? So and like if you look at the past Super Bowl champions, I guess maybe not the Patriots, but like there's a lot of instances in the past couple years in NFL where teams in that like 20 to 1 to 50 to 1 range, are making it. So last year was the Eagles, right? I think they were like probably 30 to 1 preseason. Year before that, the Falcons. The Falcons were 100 to 1 before the season. They made the Super Bowl. Year before that, the Panthers were 75 to 1. They end up losing to the Broncos. But yeah, I would say when you look at the NFL, look at those in the 20 to 1 to 40 to 1 range. Obviously, it's a quarterback-driven league, so you want to bank on a quarterback and defense. But again, so the beauty of PropSwap though is your bet doesn't need to win in order to make money, right? So if you bet, it just needs to improve. So if you looked at NFL last year, and you're like, you know what, the Jacksonville Jaguars, they got a really good defense and they got a really good running game. So I think that they were 100 to 1 before the season.
What about the Bears?
Yeah, like for us, the Bears, we're all excited about them this year. New offense, new head coach.
Right.
I mean,
Pick to click.
Right. So if I would bet the Bears, yeah, I would bet them over on the win totals, right? I think they're 6.5, right? So it's like, can they go 7 and 9? I think they probably could. And maybe look to bet them to win the division, too.
with Aaron Rodgers, Matt Stafford.
Well, our quarterback loves to kiss titties.
That's true.
He said it himself.
That's a pretty big advantage.
And Kirk Cousins now. So
Yeah, fuck.
God, we're screwed.
New
Because he's the best quarterback in the NFL.
Trubisky.
No.
Kirk
Kirk
Cousins?
Cousins.
Frank has had this long-standing belief that Kirk Cousins, after
Wait.
he had like one top 10 fantasy football season, he loves the guy now.
I mean, I think that was like that could have been like a system-driven success, though, right? I mean,
I
you
disagree.
We pair him with Jay Gruden. I mean, we'll find out. But I mean, like Mike Zimmer is not an offensive coach.
Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
Well, we'll see.
What was his name last year?
Who? Alex Smith?
Case Keenum.
Keenum?
Yeah.
Oh, Keenum.
I mean, he had a pretty great year.
Yeah.
So,
Until he shut the bed
and
in
he
the NFC
can't
Championship.
he can't throw the ball nearly as well as Kirk Cousins can. So, and
Yeah.
Kirk Cousins is way more mobile.
Yeah. No, we'll,
Best quarterback in the NFL.
That's just not right at all.
So I have one more question that I want to ask while we wrap this thing up.
Shoot.
You're obviously in Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
You've been looking at the skyline, obviously. You see all the cranes out there.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on cranes?
What are my thoughts on cranes?
Cranes, they have to be brought in by aliens, right?
We had a 30-minute debate last podcast.
Like, okay,
about cranes.
how do they get so tall?
I don't know.
I don't know.
I've been trying to figure it out for.
I mean, like, it must be something where it's like it's folded up, and then it's like slowly. I mean, like,
It is not.
But you've never seen
No.
that happen. That sounds like a long process.
Right.
But you've never seen
No,
it happen.
I mean, there's like
so you don't know.
There's like 6 cranes sitting on the Oakland Raiders stadium site right now, and I have no
You
idea.
don't know where they came from or
No.
how they got there, or how they're
I
going
mean,
to
it
get
definitely
taken
didn't
out
come in
of
one
there.
piece. Because you'd have seen a crane on the back of a back of a truck.
But you've never seen that before.
No. I mean, maybe somewhere
It's
like
got to be aliens in the middle of the night. I'm telling you.
They just appear.
In the middle of the night,
They
they
just-
just drop them.
they
in
just
off of a
appear.
UFO. Oh my God! No, here's how it happens.
It's just.
Oh,
I want
man.
his thoughts on cranes.
All right, fine.
He doesn't know. He has
I
no
mean,
idea.
I mean, my thoughts on cranes is it means development, right? I see cranes and I think money's coming in. That's my
Yes.
that's my first instinct.
So you're a money guy.
Yeah, I'm a
you only
money
see
guy.
the money side
Yeah.
of cranes.
Yeah,
Wow,
dollar
how
signs.
narrow-minded.
aliens.
See, after a conversation, I took a look at the Sears Tower. You realize how it's like how it's made. Like it's kind of like bricked off. Like there's small cubes. Like the higher you go, the thinner it gets. That's where they put the cranes on top of the building when they were building it. That's an
They
old
build the
style.
first crane, who then builds up to the whatever
the
floor
next
you're going
plateau,
to.
and then they build another one, and then go all the way up.
Yeah.
And nowadays, though, the cranes can build outward, so you can put it in the middle of the building, and it'll just go up like a screw.
I didn't hear a single word you just said. But Ian, thank you for joining us. It's we've learned a lot today. I'm gonna go actually.
I'm putting
Probably
some futures
try,
down.
I
right
put
now
some
on the
futures
Bears.
down.
Yeah.
You've
Yeah.
actually inspired me. So thank you for joining us. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Yep, great.